The two biggest factors involved in healthy livestock are the quality of the livestock to start with and the quality of the system that holds that livestock. We recently invested in a water purification system so that we could offer a better quality water to our customers. We need to address that system maintenance-wise. I've also got an issue over here. You'll notice the plywood that supports the saltwater mixing container appears to be dry. Unfortunately, the reverse osmosis DI container, the wood appears to be wet. And the other issue, I think I've got an electrical problem in my fish holding system. So come along with me. So I assume that I'm going to have to take and drain that container and pull it out. At this point, I'd be a fool not to replace the plywood. But the trick will be finding out where that tiny little hole is in the container. But first, I've got two other issues. One of them is I've got an electrical problem over here in the saltwater fish holding system. But first, I think I need to address the water purification aspect. So I wanted to give you an update on the Spectra Pure Max Cap 180 RODI water purification system that we installed last September. It's now been almost 3 months, and I've manufactured just a little over 2,500 gallons of purified water so far. I've had to replace both the DI cartridges and just recently replaced the pre-filter as well as the carbon cartridge. Apparently I've got a higher level of chlorine that has a tendency to cause the carbon cartridge to decline and in turn cause the RO membranes to decline. They now need to be replaced, and that's what we're going to do today. So I've turned off the water supply to the unit as well as unplugged the power supply. These are the RO membranes back here. And step number one is to lift the cylinder out of place. Step number two would be to push in on the gasket, which in turn allows the feed line to come off. Step number three would be to use a large wrench and a lot of muscle. And at that point I then need to use a small pitcher and pliers, grab a hold of and extract the old RO membrane. This is the new one here. To a certain degree, it just kind of slips right into place. Or it should. If it doesn't, you're doing it wrong. Make sure not to lose that O-ring there. That's important. Thread the cap back into place. Hand tighten only. And reinsert that feed line or exit line, whichever it happens to be. The black line. That's in place. And push the unit back into its clamp. What's interesting is most people would think you have to flush that RO membrane for about 3 days before you can use it. There's absolutely no real reference in the operating instructions in regards to doing so at all. It does say allow the unit to flush itself, which I have plugged the unit back in electrically as well as with the water. It's now going through a flushing cycle, so it's in the process of cleaning that RO or flushing that RO membrane itself. According to the instructions, I don't have to do anything beyond that. So apparently it's gone through its own flush cycle. The output of the RO unit, according to this meter, rose up to around 200. I then heard it go through the flush cycle. The numbers then began to dwindle significantly from there, and it's now down to 12 parts per million. So it's had a chance to flush itself. What I want to do now is shut it down. I want to change out these two DI filter cartridges right here.
The max cap filtration unit came with this nifty wrench, which allows me to unscrew the canisters from their housing. I'll slip a small container over so I can remove the DI media containers and contain the little bit of drippage. The new DI media arrives in a sealed package, and with ease, this is inserted back into the canister, which is then hand tightened.
So collectively it's been about 15 minutes is what it took to change out the RO membrane and the two DI cartridges. They've been flushing a couple of times now, and what we've got is 349 parts per million of total dissolved solids coming in. The output side of the RO membrane at this point is down to 12 parts per million. And both sides of the DI, 0. So we're generating ultra pure water. And again, that took about collectively 15 minutes to change that over. So I'm hoping to get at least another 2,000 gallons out of this unit, manufactured purified water, before I have to change those RO membranes again. There is the question about the higher level of chlorine in my water, which may be causing the RO membrane to decline a little bit faster than it needs to. So far, this unit, other than getting used to it, has been fairly simple to maintain. The biggest issue is inventorying enough salt to have on hand when I need it. And now that that's taken care of, we've got the saltwater fish holding system.
In every ocean around the world, fish know him by name. Lionfish refuse to poke him purely out of respect. He knows kung fu, especially after he walks into a spider web. His purified water is so mineral free, he can lift 300 gallons of it. When he goes swimming, sharks swim with him. He has a vast collection of aquarium-related books and has looked at all the pictures. He is the most interesting fish guy in the world.
I don't always make DI water, but when I do, I prefer Spectra Pure. Stay pure, my friends.
Receive a $50 LA Fishguys discount on a Spectra Pure Max Cap 90 5-stage RODI water purification system. Just call or go online to spectrapure.com and mention or enter LA Fishguys coupon code LAFMAX50 to receive your LA Fishguys $50 discount.
Hi there, my name's Jim Stime, and you know me as the LA Fish Guy. Well, I also wear a couple of other hats. One of them is the jellyfish tank called the Jelly Aquarium, and the third is myfishtank.com. I offer an entire line of acrylic aquariums ranging from rectangular to hexagon, flatback hex, as well as the custom curve front aquariums. There's also an entire line of stands and canopies ranging from MDF to pine to oak with a variety of different finishes available. And the website is even smart enough that you can calculate what the freight and crate charges to your location will be. That's myfishtank.com.
Reef Hobbyist magazine believes that our hobby, our fellow hobbyists, and the animals in our care are best served by the free distribution of quality information. Reef Hobbyist magazine provides hobbyists with critical husbandry information with an emphasis on marine ornamental breeding efforts. Reef Hobbyist magazine is available for free in local fish stores across the country, or you can subscribe at www.reefhobbyistmagazine.com. So as an aquarium maintenance business, I want to be able to maximize my opportunity to accommodate my customers.
I want to be able to offer them the various fish foods, the dry goods, the supplements, as well as livestock, in particular fish, and to be able to offer a quality product, which in my mind I can't see offering anything less, because ultimately I'm the guy that would have to take care of it. So to be able to offer that quality product, I need to have a system that I can hold that livestock in. That system not only has to be versatile in the sense that it can deal with the addition of medications, whether it be on a prophylactic or a disease eliminating aspect, but at the same time it has to be reliable. Reliable in the sense that I can't have failures in the sense of water pumps because there's too much at stake here. And while this system is a 2/3 smaller than what I originally had set up, it still holds 310 gallons collectively. And all of this, all 20 tanks, are running on a central filter system. The filter system, what I'm going to refer to as a central filter system, is a 90-gallon acrylic tank, which I'll refer to now as the sump. It's divided in half with an egg crate panel, and on one half is filled entirely full of bioballs, so it's a giant wet-dry trickle filter. The other side, the open side, holds a protein skimmer. It's an air-operated unit, and inside the sump is where the water pumps are located. This system, all 20 tanks, drain into the reservoir. Each row is a separate drainage system, and each row is operated by a separate pump. The idea being that if a water pump, for whatever reason, failed, it would only fail on one row. The same thing applies with all the electrical outlets. The electrician created individual circuits for each outlet. Again, the idea being that instead of the entire system failing because of some issue, maybe only one row might fail, thus minimizing or decreasing significantly any potential loss. The problem I've run into here is, for some odd reason, the lighting system, which is just basic fluorescence, on this particular end, as opposed to that end, for whatever reason, isn't illuminating completely. You can see the black end of the bulb there, and that probably is an indication the bulb is burning out. But I think that's a result of the problem, not the problem itself. I've already changed out the bulbs. Granted, they may have been used bulbs, but there was no better or improvement. In fact, what I have in there now, which isn't working properly, was the best I was able to achieve. So in the process of trying to determine was it the ballast, I kind of felt a little bit of a shock. That little bit of a shock just kind of correlated itself with the fact that 2 of the last 3 mornings I've come out here and noticed that one of the rows, the middle row, was not running, and turned out that it was one of the breakers out on the panel outside. Now that makes you question, there's not much of a load on that system because it's just small little submersible water pumps that run each row, so why would it have such a big effect on the breaker panel outside? And I got to thinking, you know, chances are it's not the breaker panel outside, that's just reacting to the problem. And then today, when I was fiddling with that ballast and got that little tingle, it made me think there's some loose voltage passing through the system. And those submersible water pumps certainly could be one of the sources for leaking electricity. There's also an abundance of aquarium heaters in there, and they too could be part of the problem. And what I mean by problem is if you look down inside this reservoir, it's quite the collection of power cords, submersible water pumps, and aquarium heaters. And so I'm a little gun shy now sticking my hand in there because I already got a little tingle. So I think what I'm going to do is hook up the voltmeter, get a reading, and then go and alternately pull the various different plugs to try to determine which one of them could be the source of the leaking electricity. And this being the voltmeter, or what some might call a VOM meter. So here's our meter. And let me just first clearly state that I'm not an electrician and I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to electricity. But what I do know is if I can hook up this meter and determine that there is voltage in the water, or at least see some reaction from the meter, and then go through and alternately unplug things and see again if there's a reaction, at least it's a tool I can use to confirm if there is some voltage going through the water. Having said that, here's the voltmeter sitting on top of the filter. I've taken the ground probe and just attached it to the ground aspects of the electrical outlet. I'm holding in my hand the probe, and you can see that it's at 0 at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and take and stick this right down in the water, like so. And oh gosh, so we've got some current in the water. So at this point, it doesn't matter how much. The point is that we've confirmed this is a way of measuring not so much the amount, but the fact that there is current in the water. So just to go ahead and confirm that once again, let me go ahead and pull that out. Drop back down to 0. So let's go ahead and put that back in there. And now confirm once again, okay. So we now have confirmed there is some current in the water. So there's 4 submersible water pumps down inside that reservoir, and there's a good 6 or 7 aquarium heaters. I'm going to go through and start unplugging things and see if I can get a reaction off that meter. So in addition to those electrical outlets on the wall, I've also had to kind of sneak in some power strips over here, as well as an extension way, or a 3-way extension there. Just to see if any of this happens to have any of the problem piece of equipment in it. This will at least kind of narrow it down. I'm just going to reach in and turn off that power strip. Go back and look at the meter. No reaction there. So whatever piece of equipment it is not on the power strip. Start that back up. There is a 3-way here. That plugged into the power strip as well. So that was not part of the problem. Okay, so that does bring us back to these electrical outlets here. So let's start with what I believe is a water pump here. Unplugging that. No reaction, and that was the water pump that ran the middle row, so let's go ahead and plug it back in, and we can see we're pumping water back in there. The other outlet is the power strip that we turned off a moment ago, so let's move over here to the water pump in this one, and that turned off the bottom row. No effect on the meter. Go ahead and plug it back in. I am going to go ahead and try to see if I can wiggle this heater out of its outlet, but I don't want to bump my ground probe out of there. And either we did bump the ground probe or that is the culprit. Let's go ahead and see if we can reposition our ground probe. No reaction there, so let's just out of curiosity plug that heater back in. And I think we've determined who the culprit is because we have a rise in voltage once again. So I think we've determined where the source of our problem is. It is a heater that is leaking electricity, and it could be the electricity that I felt in the water a moment ago, and that ultimately bothers the breaker outside, and so at this point I need to go ahead and pull that old heater out, and we'll have to wait and see if once again tomorrow morning if the power or the breaker has failed in running here, but we certainly have confirmed that that's where the source of the current in the system was from, because it isn't there anymore. And this system out here is not a grounded system. So if I happen to come out barefoot or stand in some water and put my hand in the tank, I'll then feel the current. But the fish, for whatever reason, being in a non-grounded system, don't feel that, or certainly don't act as though they feel that. Now that could be one of the factors that contributes to what's called HLLE, head and lateral line erosion, but I've not seen any confirmation of that in the system. But again, the point is that this being a non-grounded system, if I'm out here and put my foot in the water, or if the floor is wet and I stick my hand in the tank, I'll usually feel a tingle in there. And in particular, it happens in the little cuts and such on your fingers. But what I wanted to try to show you was the ultimate test to see if that voltage is out of the system, is to stick your hand back in there. And to me, that's like sticking your hand in fire. So it's one of those kind of have faith and keep moving forward kind of things, where you just kind of have to stick your hand in there and hopefully you don't feel that tingle. No tingle. So with the water purification maintenance addressed, the saltwater fish holding system's electrical issue resolved, it's now time to get into the leak in the saltwater mixing system. But that's for part 2, and until then, keep moving forward.